Yeah, see, you were like, I was like, oh, I don't want to interrupt her.
Oh my god. No. Whatever. He has my time a little.
Genevieve, thank you so much for taking the time to sit with us to do this interview today. Thank you for coming to Comic-Con. Thank you for scoring this amazing music and doing your job so well. I appreciate you. I see our most recent project was Fantasy Island that you did. I guess my question will be, how do you get in the mindset to score a TV show like that? Because that show was kind of like a fantasy, it wasn't a murder mystery, but it was like a science-y fiction. Where were you at scoring that show?
Such a good question. What mindset do you get into? I mean, it's just kind of like storytelling,
right.
You know, and each episode is like, it's got its story, it's got its setting, which is often like very different one from the next. You know, it's like almost like, it's not an anthology series, but it's almost like that because you have one episode that takes place, you know, in one location, and we need to like spice up the music with that.
Right.
And then we have like an episode that's like, oh, this is in the Middle Ages, so we need to kind of like tip our hats to the Middle Ages. So I think it's just like an adventure. And what's cool about that is that you never get bored with writing the music. You're never like, more of this same music. You're
right.
like, what's it gonna be this week? And that's fun. That's awesome. There's like an underpinning of like island music, which is some sort of island hybrid pop music that I've made for the island, and it uses like the original theme as well in that from time to time. But yeah, I think it's just like be up for anything and like be ready to like just make it fun and contemporary and.
Now you said just kind of like, you know, island music, stuff like that. Now, obviously, you want to put your signature on that. Like, what you know differentiates your island music from, you know, like what's your special recipe there? Because when you listen to scores and stuff, obviously you be like, okay, I know that's so and so or stuff like that. What's something in that would make would pick it up for like the general audience? Like, oh yeah, that's Genevieve. I know her soundtracks anyway. You know what I mean? Like,
that's a good question. I mean, I think this is the first time that I've done a show or a movie that's taken place on an island.
Right.
So this was kind of like genre melding. I think like there's elements of jazz. There's elements of so it's quite a like melange. I feel like there's some elements of bossa nova. To get really granular with it, I would say like 3/2 clave. We got a lot of that going on in it. There's some reggaeton beat elements to it. That there's some like pop beat elements to it. I'm also a producer and a songwriter.
Okay.
And so I have a band called Dark, and so I like kind of like brought some of that like electronic production that I do in the band into the sound of the show. So I think like through the lens, the sound of the show is a lot of different influences filtered through something of a pop lens. So like when we like say have like some funnier scenes, it's like jazzy maybe to like hit the jokes and like weird rhythms and stuff.
Right.
But it's still like, you know, I'm still like using Serum or like something that, you know, is much more of like a pop producer tool.
Right.
So I think this one it's definitely like score like versus pop producer, I would say.
Let's talk about that band. You said Dark?
Yeah.
How long you been doing that?
Maybe like 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah. We're signed to a Canadian label called Network Music Group, and we have 2 records out. The first one is called Heathered, and it's like kind of like synth pop. It's like synthcore, analog synth mostly, and I sing, and my producing and singing partner Chris James is in it with me, and the 2 of us do it. Write all the music together, and we have one full-length record called Feel So Much, and we are working on a new one, which is, we don't have a date yet, but we are almost done, and that one's a sci-fi themed, like synthcore, emo. I think it's apocalyptic pop.
Sounds like my music. Yeah,
Does it?
Yeah, it sounds like if you see my Apple playlist right now, you're like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah, I feel like we're in this like weird time, and I think the songs we're writing are really reflecting that.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, apocalyptic pop. That's what I'm gonna say.
How do you balance that? Like, how do you do the band and like your full time? Like, how do you have the time to be able to do that? Like, kind of go back and forth, and then kind of get your mindset back into, okay, now it's band mode versus work for TV or whatever mode. Like,
yeah, I feel like they kind of help each other.
Yeah.
Because like I feel like you get kind of burned out on one, and then you jump to the other one, and you're like, oh, this is just. And it's funny because like sometimes I'm working on the band stuff, and I'm like, I'm just like so sick of producing this track, or I'm so sick of this song, or like I'm just sick of this whole thing. And then I go over to like, yeah, Fantasy Island or like Gutsy or whatever I'm working on, and I'm like, oh, it's so nice to just like write like this score, and it's like I know what I'm doing. And then sometimes, you know, I have like a long day on like a score, and I'm like, I don't have any more ideas for this. And then you'd think I just want to like stop writing music or whatever, but instead I'm like, fuck, I have this song in my head. Oop, I dropped an F-bomb. But it's like you have this song in your head, or sometimes you're working on one and you like write something and it's like not right for the band.
right.
But you're like, this would be great for the show. Or you're on the show and you just like are fiddling around with something and you're like, ooh, what's that? Like, what's that chord progression? And you're like, ooh, that's not score, that's a song. So like, you just kind of like make the music, and then when things cross each other, you just go like, all right, that's for this, that's for that. Keeps it fresh.
Yeah, so one becomes an outlet from the other, like you were saying. That's an amazing thing. That's some crazy work ethic too. And you're like young, so you know most people get burnt out. You know, like, oh, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. I'm retired. So it's really refreshing to like be able to see somebody be able to balance or have that balance, like not only physically but mentally for both of those careers. Like that is not a lot of people can do that. So that is, yeah. Put yourself on the top of that list.
I love it though. I feel like I'm so lucky. Like, oh my God, like I can't even believe that I'm allowed to make music for a job. So I'm like, every day I'm just like. And
you love it, and you still got the passion for most.
I love it. Like I love it. I don't have hobbies at all.
I have too many.
Oh my God, I often am like, I should have a hobby. Like I should do gardening or something. Like I don't know, but it's like, yeah, I write music and walk my dogs. Yeah. Go to the gym.
That sounds like
it's
a good
simple
schedule.
life,
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. Genevieve, I appreciate you for sitting down and taking the time to do this interview. Really, I hope you enjoy the rest of your San Diego Comic-Con. I will definitely be keeping my ear out for your band. I'm gonna go ahead and put that in. Hopefully, you on Apple, Spotify, anything like that?
Apple.
I'm gonna look it up right now,
yeah.
and I'll be listening to that the rest of my trip.
Oh, I mean, we'll see if you like it.
I think I'm gonna like it. You're speaking right to me.
Okay.
But thank you. I appreciate you doing the interview with us.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. No problem.
Yes.